Hello, welcome back to another episode of Mums on a Mission. This is episode number 5. I am your host, Julie Hatch, and I'm glad that you're here today. I am going to be talking, the name of this episode today is So Now What? The first few episodes, I talked about element types, which is really the foundation of what I teach about parenting and how to help parents out. Knowing your child's element type is hugely helpful in handling behavior or just getting to know your child deeper down, more of what makes your child tick. So what now? What do we do now? So you have found out that little Susie is a metal type, or that little Joey is a wood type. So what do you do with that information? And if you haven't yet found out what your child's element type is, you can take the element quiz or questionnaire on my website, which is juliephillipshatch.com. And on the MOM page, there is a 5-element questionnaire. And you take that and you find out what element type your child is. And from there, we figure out what the best way is to help your child with their challenges and with their behavior. Okay, so the element types, again, to sum up, are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And what's important to know about the element types is that with each one, actually there's a lot I'm only just talking about the behavioral part of them. You can learn about their emotions. I talk about that a little bit. You can learn about their physical vulnerabilities and their physical strengths, and it's a really holistic way of looking at your child. It's not just looking at the behavior. It's a holistic way of looking at your child. It's getting beyond the behavior and knowing what makes your child tick, who they are deep down inside. What is their essence? Who are they? Why do they get afraid or anxious about certain things? And what makes them feel really happy and enlivened with life? What are the different components to their personality and their temperaments? And it really comes down, or element typing can really help you figure out this stuff. And it can help with behavior, and it can help with parenting them in so many different ways. It's, again, getting beyond the behavior, and it's a more holistic look at your child, which is really the best way to go. The other thing is with behavior, it is really easy as a parent to focus on behavior because behavior is a big part of what goes on between a parent and child. And their behavior can be really challenging for us, make us feel very uncomfortable, not quite know what to do, piss us off, and it can be really inconvenient. And it can just be a nuisance. Kids' behavior is probably the biggest driving force between what stresses out a parent, right? The behavior that they have. But kids are not here, which you should know by now, I would think. Kids are not here to make your life comfortable and convenient. No, they are here to challenge us, to surprise us, to make us laugh, to make us cry, to make us swear, to make us jump with joy, everything. Their job is not to make life comfortable and sedate and serene. That's not them. They're here to make us uncomfortable, inconvenient, and to teach us. Ultimately, I think that they're here to teach us. So it's a great teaching opportunity to learn about yourself and about other people and about your children as you raise your child. So, comfort and convenience, that's not what the point of having kids is. So back to the element types. To review, every element type has a motivator, which are the things that enliven a child. They are the things that we want to inject into their days every day as much as we can, because it's what enlivens them. It's what makes them feel good about themselves. So it makes them feel good about life. It makes them engage with life. It is all the good stuff. And every element type has some great motivators. It is their strengths. And we want to capitalize on those. So it's important to know what the strengths are. And then, of course, there are stressors in a child, which are for each element type. And stressors I also call triggers. And triggers are those things that when things are not right, there's a trigger in the environment, a situation, or with a certain person or a group of people, the triggers come out, and each element type has their different kinds of triggers that will make the child feel that this isn't good. This person isn't treating me right, or this situation is going wrong, and it's triggering me off to feel a certain way. And the feeling that they get is when things aren't going right for them, maybe going fine for another child, but it's not going right for them, they get these feelings of feeling fear, uncertainty, insecurity, and just really not sure what's going on, what to do with these feelings. And so they act out. Their behavior is a result of, the behavior is an expression of the feelings that these triggers trigger. Does that make sense? The triggers bring up certain feelings in them that aren't good, and so they act out because they don't know what to do with these feelings. So, for instance, an earth child who loves to be around people and loves to help take care of people, put him in a crowd of people and he's fine. If you can just blend in with everybody, that's great. Take even better, take a fire child who loves people and loves the attention, loves being in the limelight, loves being the center of attention and the entertainer. Being around people and being surrounded by people and having to interact with all different kinds of people makes them thrive. Those are motivators for fire children. Put a water child in the middle of a group of people and tell them to socialize and entertain and be polite and be nice, and that is a huge stressor for a water child. So every element type has their different motivators and different stressors. Same, I've said before that you can have one situation with 3 different kinds of kids, and you're going to get, for instance, bullies on the playground. You're going to get 3 different reactions to the stressors of being bullied. And the reactions are part of their element type. It's the way that they handle what's going on. So when there are triggers that are setting them off, making life difficult for them, throwing them challenges, certainly we want to help them meet their challenges. We can, if we want to have an easy, nice day, we can avoid the challenges. We can keep them all in the kind of situations that bring out their motivators, and we avoid all the challenges, like the wrong kinds of people or the wrong kinds of stressors. But that you can only do for so long. They have to learn how to meet their challenges, how to face what triggers them off and what makes them feel uncomfortable. That's what building resilience is about. That's what growing up is all about, is how to meet the challenges and navigate through the challenges and how to process the feelings that are going on. So it's our job as parents to help our kids to figure out how to deal with their stressors, their triggers. What are they going to do about their triggers? So to sum up with each different element type, for instance, and I'm going to refer to triggers a little bit as weaknesses. So for instance, an earth child needs to, as they go through life, they need to learn how to stand up for themselves and speak up and not be overrun by the crowd. Because it's easy for earth children to go along with the flow and just meld in and not really stand out. They don't want to stand out. But sometimes they need to stand out. They need to stand up for themselves. And so we need to help them, earth children, learn how to stand up for themselves, feel good about speaking out for themselves. And so then wood children need to learn how to deal with their feelings of anger and frustration, because that's the emotion that comes out in wood children when they're triggered, is anger and frustration. And we need to help them to figure out how to rechannel it, redirect it, Squelch it, not so much, but how to handle a situation where those emotions are coming up. Recognize those emotions. There's many different ways that we can teach them how to process those emotions and make them expressed a little bit more easily, more acceptably than just lashing out and yelling and hitting and doing what they do. Fire children need to learn how to calm themselves and how to calm themselves and how to focus. That's right. They're not good at focusing. They like all the bright, shiny things. So they need to learn how to calm themselves, how to be sometimes less manic in times of triggering stressful times, and how to focus. Earth children I talked about. Metal children need to learn how to loosen up a little bit and go with the flow a little bit more. Their weakness is that they are just so rigid that they can't go with anything new and different or any kind of a change in things. They need to loosen up those rigid boundaries. And water children need to learn how to get along better in social situations, not be all anxious around social situations, and learn how to not be the life of the party. That's not it. They're never going to be the life of the party, but so they can feel a little more comfortable being around more people in social situations. And some water children may need some help in time management because they're not great at time management. So these are all just examples of where they could use some help in negotiating those weaknesses of theirs and how to make themselves stronger in those areas of weaknesses. Their stressors, their triggers are their areas of weaknesses. So to remember that behavior is a symptom of something going on deeper inside. The whole point of this is to find out what that deeper inside is and what out here in the environment triggers it and how to process the feeling that comes up. So back to 5-year-old Joey, who is a wood element or a wood type. He is, so as an example, he is a child who's a wood type, so he's super energetic. He's very competitive. He doesn't play well with other children because he's a pioneer. He needs to go first. He needs to be the first one. He needs to win. He needs to he needs to be on top. He is the pioneer, and he's going to be first and foremost, and everybody else get out of the way because here he comes. And that's a wood type, and that is Joey's innate qualities, which are great qualities. He's going to go far in life with those qualities. But at the age of 5, he hasn't quite tamed them. And so that's actually another thing, is looking at your child's age and what is appropriate for their age. So a 5-year-old can't expect to be on their best behavior when other kids are challenging him and competing with him. He's 5 years old. And being a boy, my guess is that he is probably an immature 5-year-old. So Joey just needs some help over time. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen in a week or a month. Maybe in a year, a little bit of progress will be made, but he just needs to understand these feelings of anger and frustration when he can't win, or when other kids are stealing his toys from him, or when other kids are getting in his way and trying to be in front of him. He's gonna act out with anger and frustration. So our job as a parent is to teach them how to handle those behaviors, those feelings of anger and frustration. And so there's a whole, that's a whole other topic of a whole other podcast about how to process these feelings. But it can be done. It absolutely can be done. And if you know your child and what they like, what helps them, and can minimize what stresses them and help them process these feelings of anger and frustration, that's really what it takes. The other thing is that sometimes with kids' behavior, you just need to remove them from the situation, especially a 5-year-old who is a little bit unpredictable, and when things get out of control, sometimes you just have to remove them from the situation and say we're going home. You can try in the moment to figure out what's going on and help them understand their feelings and why they're feeling this way and what they're supposed to do with these feelings. But again, 5-year-old is really young to do that with, and in the situation is often not the right time to do it, but rather go home, talk about it, reflect on it. The older the child is, the easier it is to reflect on it after the fact. Young kids sort of need correction in the moment, but not to make a big deal out of it. Just get them out of the situation. But anyways, for every different element type, there are different ways to help the child process the feelings that are coming up and causing them to act the way that they act. That's what it is processing the feelings that are unique to their element type, and that will affect their behavior. So this is the energetics of parenting. It's the more subtle stuff about parenting, and it's really the subtleties that your child needs from you. And it's not in a textbook or a parenting book. It's just it's soft and wishy-washy, and you can't always put your finger on it. But if you have the element type as a framework to work from, it's really helpful to kind of know what to do. I would also say that I think that mothers have really good intuition, and that your gut, if you listen to your gut about how you should respond to your child, that's a good way. That's as good a way to go as any, is to go with your gut. But that's another topic also. So it's not about how to react to your child. Do you yell? Well, sometimes you can't help but yell. Does it call for a timeout or a punishment, or ignoring it, which sometimes is exactly the right way to go, or yelling or sending them to the room or whatever. It's not about that kind of stuff. It's more about how to respond, how to be prepared for what may bring out some behavior in them, and have yourself in a place where you can respond rather than react. And that is a big challenge. I know that it's everybody's tired and hungry, and you've had a bad day and they've had a bad day, and reaction is what's going to happen. But if you can put yourself in a place where you respond rather than react, you're going to do better. And when I say respond, I mean you're coming from a place of being present with yourself. I've talked about consciously connecting. So consciously connecting with your kid is one thing that you want to do, but consciously connecting with yourself is another thing that you want to do. You want to be grounded. You want to take deep breaths. Taking deep breaths, especially in the times of stress and angst, taking 3 or 4 deep breaths really does make a difference. There's a physiological reason why it happens, a mental and an emotional reason why it is helpful. So take some deep breaths. And understand where you're coming from. If you've had a really stressful day, understand that your stress may be up here, and you need to sort of bring it down before you even approach the situation of whatever is going on. And your child may have had a really bad day, and they're going to let it out even more than we as adults are, and so you have to be prepared for that. The other things to consider, which I'm going to talk more about in another episode, about how you are showing up for your child. But in any case, when you respond to them, the things to consider are where you're coming from, what your day has been like, and where they're coming from, both what their day has been like and what is triggering them. Understanding that, understanding your own triggers, what triggers you off, which is likely to be different from what triggers your child. But if you understand your triggers, that is really helpful in starting from a baseline of how to respond. How about your experiences with your parents? Are you being triggered by past experience with your parents? Is your child in the same situation that you once were with your parents, and how do they react or respond? That's a biggie. Do you come from a place of needing to control the situation or control your child? Think about that. Is that where you're coming from? Are your expectations of your child realistic and reasonable? For instance, a 5-year-old who gets angry because kids are taking his toys away from him. It's kind of age appropriate. A 2-year-old having a tantrum is one thing. An 8-year-old or a 10-year-old having a tantrum is a whole nother thing. What is appropriate, what isn't appropriate, and what are your expectations of them? Again, with firstborn children, I think our expectations are usually much higher than they should be. I know that they are from experience. And by the time you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children, you're more realistic about what a 5-year-old can be expected to do. But first time around, you think that a 5-year-old should be able to hold it together better, perhaps. Or, whatever the age is and whatever the situation is. We often expect more out of our children, especially firstborns, than is reasonable. So the bottom line, really, in all of this is to not take it all too seriously. Your child's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And in hindsight, when you get to be my age, you look back and you say, wow, I could have done this. I should have done that. I would have done this. And things would have been better. I would have been a better mother if I had done this and done that. But that's hindsight. And right now, you're in the midst of it. You're doing the best job that you can. And that's the best you can do. And that is the best for your child. So believe in yourself. Do the best that you can. It's fine. Everything's going to work out okay. And I'm not just being Pollyanna. Really, it's going to work out okay in the long run. So try to enjoy. Lighten up. I'm going to try to say this at the end of every episode, and try to lighten up, smile a little bit more, laugh a little bit more, play, dance, sing with your child, because all this behavioral stuff and the troubles are, like I say, we magnify them. They're just we take them way out of proportion. So put more fun and joy and laughter into your life with your child. So that is it for today. Thank you for listening. If you're on Apple, please leave a review or a rating. Subscribe on YouTube. Connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. And send me messages, whatever. I would love to connect. So until next time, thanks for being here.